Next on Bounce Around Birmingham.
25% of your check should always go to savings. And then you should always take 10% for what you want.
Lots of bankers advise you to save money, but we'll introduce you to one who's developed her own app to help you do it.
Part of our initiative, what we're doing now, is to return this community to its glory days as it was, and even more vibrant and more thriving.
Once Ensley's commercial district was booming with retail shops and restaurants. Now mostly vacant buildings line the streets. But you'll hear one man's plan to revitalize downtown Ensley.
Many of the students did not have a laptop or a computer in their home. Many of the students had no computer coding experience.
She's a scientist who is teaching coding to kids. But what do her students do that makes this STEAM instead of STEM?
Bounce Around Birmingham is sponsored by Miles College and Seba Rail Law Group.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have another great show and interesting story.
That's right. We're going to start by talking about money, because we know how difficult it can be sometimes to save for anything from a new pair of shoes to a house, a car, even a college education. But one banker we talked with recently has some interesting tips and an app that might just help you reach your money-saving goals.
Inside Bancorp South on Highland Avenue, workers do everything they can for its members. April Fort Kelly, Assistant Vice President of Commercial Lending, has taken financial services the extra mile.
I teach a lot of financial literacy, and I'm just happy I work somewhere that allows me to go out and teach this in our communities to our children.
April says the first rule of financial literacy is save, save, save. Even further, aggressively saving is the way to go.
25% of your check should always go to savings. And then you should always take 10% for what you want.
Giving people the hookup on how to save their money has been in her DNA. She gets a lot of her saving swagger from her mother.
My mom is actually like my shero. Like, she can do anything. When I was a little kid, we couldn't afford to buy the fancy dresses. She would make them. And so I had like all these dresses, and people would say, "Where'd you get your dress from?" And we had a joke that I would say Sharia's, because that's my mom's name.
April's four brothers didn't fall far from the apple tree as well. They started a few companies with Sisters Insights. She even started her own distribution company called Oh So Tasty, but she sold it to a few of her students who couldn't get jobs because of past troubles.
And what I ended up doing was teaching them how to run the business side of it so they could become business owners.
Now, if you're saying to yourself, it's hard to save money these days, I can tell you, I'm with you. That's why April says with money, you have to change your behavior.
There's 5 behaviors to money. I call them your financial love language. Okay. So you have people who react to money in different ways. You have the protector who make money to help protect others. So and I'm a protector. I always want to protect my brothers, my sisters, my mom. I want to make sure I'm protecting. Mm-hmm. But then you also have your spenders. They spend. They don't mind spending. And usually that's the thing they do to make other people attracted to them. And then you have your savers, and they kind of hoard the money. But they usually have OCD. The taker, they'll never have enough money. Mm-hmm. The taker will never, ever have enough money. They live paycheck to paycheck because they don't understand the ability to save and what saving can do for them. The giver is a person who gives. They donate to causes, but they don't always do it the right way.
Now, if all this seems like a lot, April created something that makes saving money the easiest way possible. She created an app that saves for you called Loving Your Money.
Most people tell you, even in my book, I say get an extra account somewhere that you don't normally travel so you're not tempted to take the money out. Mm-hmm. But the reality of it is, if you really want the money out, you're going to take it out, right? Or what's the chances of you actually going out and opening an account across town? We all work, we have kids, we have things to do. So the app is another way of holding that money for you and saving it.
And the app does more than just encourage you to save.
You like to go on trips and you like to hang out. And so me and my friends, if we get ready to go on a trip, we can go to the app and we create a trip group savings. So if the hotel would cost us $100 each, we could put the $100 in the group. And we add each person to the group, and they all put their $100 there, so there's no questioning who paid, who didn't pay.
The Loving Your Money app is only the first step for your money portfolio. Investing comes a little later, but if you ever want anybody to take you serious as an entrepreneur, take some advice from a banker.
A lot of people come in and they say they have these great ideas, And in order for the bank to give you money, we have to know that you can handle your own money before you can handle someone else's money. And I think that's a big piece that's missing. How can someone else trust you with their money if you can't trust yourself with your own?
April Fort Kelly may be a self-described math nerd, but she has created one heck of a cool way for you to save and love your money.
Now, if you'd like to download that free app, go to your App Store or Google Play and search for Loving Your Money. By the way, that's loving the letters UR, money.
Coming up, Antonio Sperling's plan to revitalize downtown Inslee. 100 years ago, the corner of 19th Street and Avenue E was the epicenter of Inslee. Throughout the years, the buildings and its population have changed, but now Antonio Sperling is investing a lot into the neighborhood where he grew up in hopes of transforming the community he loves.
The year was 1886. Memphis businessman Colonel Enoch Inslee heard about a magic city that was ripe for new business. He founded the Inslee Land Company and a railroad called TCI. A few years later, he erected a 200-ton blast furnace for the new iron industry. But 2 years later, Colonel Inslee died, and the land the industrial city was on was sold at a sheriff's auction for less than $16,000. By 1906, the reconstructed town began to grow. Churches and public buildings sprouted up quickly, but it was annexed into Birmingham after the Greater Birmingham legislation of 1910. Residents named it Inslee after its founder.
Inslee, by definition, means the place of my peaceful meadow.
Peaceful was never an adjective to describe the new town. Between the 1890s and the Great Depression, Inslee was known for its fraternal halls and dance clubs. Tuxedo Junction, named after a popular juke joint, was naturally known because of a hit song by its native son, Erskine Hawkins, in 1939. As time moved on, the steel industry left Inslee, taking with it most of its population and economic base. Fast forward to today. Out of the darkness, a native son has taken over Colonel Inslee's role of developer. For the past 8 years, Esquire Antonio Sperling has been pumping in his money and his vision of a new Inslee.
Part of our initiative, what we're doing now, is to return this community to its glory days as it was, and even more vibrant and more thriving. Sometimes I get a very strange look from people that are in Mountain Brook, and they say, well, you're working very hard in Inslee, and that's great. And they say, but do you really believe that's realistic? And I say, sure it is. I said, because if it's not, what that means for you, sir or ma'am, who live in Mountain Brook is 50 years from now, Mountain Brook will look like Inslee.
Now, you probably wouldn't believe me if I told you these days Inslee is looking more and more like Mountain Brook. As a young boy, Inslee felt like a paradise for Antonio Sperling. He would visit the Wylam Food Center daily to play video games. His first mentor was the owner, a very kind Jewish man named Carlton Tanner, who was a father figure after what was reported as the wrongful death of his real father by a police officer.
I think from that experience, it gave me a sense of passion to turn a place of my pain to a place of my purpose and destiny and ambition to really want to give back. Obviously, Satan tried to confuse the situation and make me hate the community and not want to come back and do anything. And so as I grew in economic influence and power and wealth and authority, we wanted to really invest in this community.
Both Antonio and his wife Marquita grew up there. They went to and graduated from Inslee High School. So their love of the community started with another kind of love.
It's the love of my life, and we have 5 children. So Inslee is home for us, although we don't necessarily have our primary residence here. But at the same time, we invest so much time, energy, effort, and focus and seeing to it that this community is no longer deprived and that the people that are here are actually becoming more of an asset than a liability.
During the 1980s, Antonio says it was a liability to hang out in certain areas of Inslee. After the collapse of the steel industry, people were desperate for work and money. When they couldn't find money the legal way, they got it by any means necessary.
There were some very dangerous parts of Inslee. I will acknowledge that in the 80s, drugs were a very high consumption of people's lifestyle in those days, from marijuana to all types of drugs, but it was still home for us. But just prayerfully making the right decisions and being around the right people, it never directly affected us. But yeah, there were unfortunately some murders and different things that happened back in the 80s, but that's yesterday. I mean, we're focusing more on the future of Inslee. We must all participate in the economic development of this city in total, because crime, like blight, like drugs, it has no boundaries, it has no limits. It will infiltrate any zip code. And so if you're isolated thinking that you're in Mountain Brook or Vestavia or Homewood or Hoover, wherever, think again.
Coming up, the future of Inslee is looking bright thanks to the Sperlings.
In the beginning, in 1886, Inslee was on top of the world, and now it's going through transition. A new day is coming to Inslee. J.J. Pruitt continues on the transformation currently taking place.
The new look of Inslee is the vision of one family who wants to return the once booming town to its glory days. Antonio Sperling and his wife Marquita started this project in an unusual way.
One of my vices growing up was gambling. I used to really like to gamble. I would not illegal gambling in that sense, but I used to like to bet, and so I did a lot of betting. I did a lot of day trading, and so I would take pretty substantial sums of money and invest in day trading. I wanted to channel those resources and that threshold for risk to something that's constructive. So my wife and I created a company, and we started investing in residential real estate.
The Sperlings did that for about 5 years. One day, while visiting Chicago, they went to a place that reminded them of home.
It was very heavily crime infested, if you will, very blighted, and I would invariably travel there and notice that that community was a mirror image in my mind of what Inslee was. And then I happened to stumble upon a book. The title of the book is Reweaving the Fabric. And it was a gentleman that wrote that book, Ronald Norred. He passed several years ago, but that book was about Inslee.
So the Sperlings thought, we can reweave the fabric of Inslee.
We started to acquire properties around the peripheral of this, what we thought to be a future epic center. This was some 9-10 years ago in 2010. And so from there we bought our first building. It was 413 19th Street, which is adjacent to Gilmer Drugs, which is across the street from where we're located now. We also bought 7 buildings that were contiguous, and it included the Inslee Grill, the former Goldboro Jewelry, the former location where Alabama Power had its operations. And going around the corner there was a hardware store, and we've taken all those buildings, renovated them, and have put tenants in those buildings.
One building is the Sperling Law Firm and his wife's company, Milestone Realty. Next was what Antonio calls his pop-up businesses, described as when you have change in your pocket, wherever you go, the change in your pocket goes with you. The same goes with some businesses. You can take the resource one zip code away for a fraction of what they pay in rent somewhere else.
We have a lot of space available for that as well, very competitive rates. And so with your bars, your pubs, your brews, they're already starting to prospect different locations on 19th Street, which is a sum total of some 9 or 10 blocks contiguous. And Birmingham doesn't really have that other than in downtown. And so that's why we believe this area, because of the real estate values still being relatively low, you can acquire properties, renovate them for a fraction, or lease properties for a fraction of what you would pay in leasing somewhere else, and you're still literally one exit from downtown Birmingham.
Antonio's concept is the Inslee Entertainment District. One example of his pop-up concept is Inslee Live Entertainment Loft.
That building is a 2-story building. It has a total of 8,000 square feet, and so it can accommodate up to about 150, 175 people.
2 doors down is the Inslee Cosmopolitan Soho,
which is a little bit more chic, industrial chic looking, with the tin ceilings, the wood floors, some real funky doors mounted to the wall, sliding barn doors. Just a great space.
Also Goldstein and Cohen.
Just a pretty cool sign, and so I wanted to make sure that we retained the sign. It was in the basement of the building, and so I brought it up and I had my guys kind of fasten and anchor it to the wall, but that sign's got to be every bit of 70 years old.
He also has a 20,000 square foot facility called Tuxedo Ballroom, where he envisions tuxedos and dancing from the olden days. And remember the Wylam Food Center and his obsession with playing video games ad nauseum? Well, he opened up a game room called Play Over Games, just like his mentor, Mr. Tanner.
Sometimes now my heart is filled to go in there and see kids play those games and they're able to play for a quarter. Well, 30 years, my junior, 10, 11-year-old kids, I'm in my mid-40s, and they're still spending a quarter playing a game. So we've been able to stave off recession so that you can still play a video game for a quarter, when I was playing it in 1985 for a quarter. And so it's a great business model. It's a real nice, clean, classic environment.
Antonio's latest project is a future gym called Inslee CrossFit and a huge vocational training center called Voc Row.
We'll have plumbing, electrical, HVAC, carpentry, quite naturally. Those are the main trades that I've noticed over the years that were taken out of public schools.
Has anybody come up to you and said, hey man, thank you for what you're doing?
Yeah, we get that quite often, actually. We get that quite often, and it's people out of sincerity that do that.
The city of Inslee, as they say on the streets, is on the come up, thanks to a native family who was sincere in believing in their vision of returning Inslee to its glory days. Although Enoch Inslee started it off, the new colonel is the Sperling family.
After the break, we'll show you a new program that could be training the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. For lots of kids, summer is about fun. But for the students you're about to meet, it was about challenging themselves because they enrolled in a program developed by Birmingham area native Dr. Adrian Starks. And what they learned in that free program is invaluable.
What's your reaction to seeing what you brought these kids?
I'm amazed at how everything came together.
Dr. Adrian Starks says it started with simply an idea of hers to give kids something that she had growing up, educational summer programs.
Growing up in Fairfield, I went to summer programs at UAB. So that's when I kind of had an opportunity to be exposed to different types of science experiments and what science is.
Today, she has a bachelor's degree in biology from Alabama A&M University and a PhD in biology from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. But while in transition mode in her career, her focus turned to Birmingham students who she wants to see succeed. She came up with STREAM Innovations. STREAM stands for Science, Technology, Reading, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. There are 3 free summer programs that are part of it.
So STREAM Computer Coding is one of our 3 programs, and that's for 7th and 8th graders. We also have a program called STREAM Saturdays, which is for 3rd to 6th graders, and that's all hands-on science at the rec center. And we also have a 3rd program called Check Out STREAM, which is at the library. And that is a 1-hour demonstration.
The programs are open to any Birmingham student. One of the programs brought us to Inglenook K-8, where the coding classes were held.
I always wondered how people make websites and video games.
This summer, I wanted to learn something new, and I wanted to learn how to code.
Simakaya Yisrael, an 8th grader at Inglenook, is one of the 10 students who took part in the coding program. Every student interested in the class had to submit an application, essay, and do an interview to be chosen for it.
So they learn HTML, CSS, jQuery, and JavaScript. Every week they learn something different.
This is not easy stuff. Yisrael says it was tough, but he was up for the challenge.
Can you walk me through it? What is coding? How did you learn? Is there an easy way to explain it?
No.
There's not?
No.
It was a 6-week program, and instructors volunteered their time to teach the students. The kids came up with a business they wanted to start and used software to create a mock website for their business idea. Simakaya Yisrael, his website promotes his business idea called Computer 7, a company, ironically, that trains people how to code, which goes right in line with his real-life aspirations.
I really wanted to make an app on how to code and teach everybody in my community.
Talia Lee's idea is a company that sells custom t-shirts and hair accessories.
I'm very proud of myself because at times it was kind of rough trying to get this together.
All of these kids should be proud of themselves, and even more proud was the principal of Inglenook, Mario Lumsey. The majority of the kids in the coding program were his students. He was pleased that they not only learned how to code, but also got out of the classroom to see it applied.
One particular field trip they went to, one of the companies was launching an app on that day, so our students got an opportunity to witness that.
Dr. Starks calls her program a game changer.
Many of the students did not have a laptop or a computer in their home. Many of the students had no computer coding experience.
The program was her idea, but she says it all came together because others saw a need and wanted to help her.
You know, we don't support programs if we don't support students in some non-traditional ways. You won't get the amazing outcomes that we were able to see this summer.
Now, Dr. Starks is getting ready for next summer's program, and she says there's always a need for financial support and for volunteers. If you want to help or you just want more information, her website is streaminnovations.org.
Well, that's it for our show. Thanks for watching, everyone, and be sure to watch next time for another great Bounce Around Birmingham.
Bounce Around Birmingham is sponsored by Miles College and C. Burrell Law Group.